So, how do you take a tiny startup working out of an apartment and turn it into one of the biggest companies on the entire planet? Well, today, we're going to dig into the story of Alibaba, but we're going to do it through the eyes of its co-founder, Tsai, to really get at the core principles that fueled their unbelievable rise.
And if you want to boil this entire incredible journey down to just one single idea, it's this piece of advice from Tsai. He says it's the key to everything. Just 3 simple words. Find the people. You know, at the heart of this story is this classic, almost perfect partnership. On one side, you've got Jack Ma, a former teacher just overflowing with this infectious charisma and a grand sweeping vision. And then on the other side, you have Tsai. He's this US-educated lawyer and investor, totally focused on structure, on execution. They were basically 2 sides of the same coin, completely different, but they fit together perfectly. So here's how we're going to break it all down. We'll start with how this unlikely partnership even happened in the first place, and then look at the core rule it was built on. We'll see how they built trust, survived some major rejection, and then the playbook they used to take down a giant. And finally, we'll look at how they're trying to refocus the company right now for the future.
Okay, so let's rewind the clock. Picture this. It's 1999. Tsai is this super successful private equity investor making a hefty 6-figure salary. He flies to a city called Hangzhou to meet this charismatic entrepreneur, Jack Ma. And where do they meet? In Jack's tiny little apartment.
So at the time of this meeting, let's be clear, the company had exactly 0 revenue. Not a single dollar coming in. Oh, and it gets even better. When investors would ask Jack for a business plan, his answer was, and this is literally his answer, "I don't have a business plan." He wasn't pitching a model, you see. He was pitching a mission.
So, what did he have then? Well, he had this incredible, almost magical ability to inspire people. And he had a team so dedicated, so all in, that the office was also their home. Tsai walks into this apartment and just sees sleeping bags scattered all over the place.
But the one detail, the tiny little thing that absolutely sealed the deal for Tsai was this. He saw 10 toothbrushes sitting by the bathroom sink. It's a small thing, right? But for him, it was proof. It was proof of an almost fanatical level of commitment. And right then and there, Tsai decided he was going to quit his high-paying job to join them for a tiny fraction of the salary.
And this brings us right back to that core idea. Find the people. The person is always more important than the plan. Think about it. A great team can always fix a bad plan, but there's no way a great plan can fix a bad team. This idea really became Tsai's guiding philosophy.
You know, the reason their partnership worked so well is because of this concept called complementarity. Tsai knew exactly what he was good at: law, finance, structure. Jack Ma, he was the visionary, the public face of the company. They weren't competing with each other. They were completing each other's skill sets. And he actually boils this down into 3 really simple tests for anyone looking for a co-founder. First, can you just grab a beer with them? Like, do you actually like them as a human being? Second, are your skills different enough that you're not going to be stepping on each other's toes all the time? And third, and this is a big one, could you spend all day, every single day with them and not go totally crazy? If you can say yes to all 3, you've probably found your person.
Okay, but this partnership, it created a totally new challenge for Tsai. He had to figure out how to fit in. Here he was, from Taiwan, educated in the US, joining this super tight-knit group of 17 founders from mainland China. I mean, he was the ultimate outsider.
So how did he build trust? Well, he basically used the same strategy that worked for him when he moved to America at age 13 without knowing a word of English. He listened way more than he spoke, he approached everything with humility, and he focused on blending in and becoming part of the community, not trying to change it from the outside.
And this brand new partnership, it was put to the test almost immediately. Jack and Joe hopped on a plane, flew to Silicon Valley's famous Sand Hill Road to go raise money for their company that, let's remember, had no revenue and no formal plan.
And in Tsai's own words, they struck out. Big time. They met with about 15 different venture capital firms and didn't get a single offer. The investors were just baffled. Jack and Joe were selling this mission to make it easy to do business anywhere, and the VCs they didn't get it.
But that failure, that total rejection, it turned out to be one of the most important moments in their entire history. They flew back to China with this powerful conviction. They had to build the company they believed in, not the company that some investors wanted them to build. And that conviction, well, it would soon fuel one of the greatest underdog stories in the history of tech. It was time for Alibaba to take on an absolute giant. So just to set the scene, back in the early 2000s, China's consumer e-commerce market was completely, utterly dominated by one company, eBay. We're talking a staggering 90% market share. And Alibaba? They had zero. Nothing.
So how on earth do you compete with that? Well, you go into full-on stealth mode. Jack handpicked a small team of 7 people, made them all sign non-disclosure agreements, and then moved them back into the very same apartment where Alibaba was born. Their colleagues had no clue where they went. They just vanished one day.
And their strategy? It worked spectacularly. See, unlike eBay, which charged sellers a fee just to list their items, Taobao was totally free. It also had these cool features like instant messaging, which let buyers and sellers haggle and build relationships, which is a huge part of Chinese commerce culture that eBay's one-size-fits-all platform just missed. And within just 2 years, they had completely flipped the market, capturing 60% and basically forcing eBay to shut down its operations in China.
So let's fast forward a few decades. Now, the tables have completely turned. Alibaba is the incumbent, this massive company with over 120,000 employees. And it started to suffer from that classic innovator's dilemma. It just got too big and too slow to really innovate.
So in 2023, Tsai came back as chairman, and along with the new CEO, they made 3 really decisive moves. First, they refocus on just 2 core businesses, their original strength in e-commerce and their biggest growth opportunity, which is AI and cloud. Second, they took all their best people and their capital and poured it into those areas. And third, they started to sell off or get rid of everything else that wasn't core to that new mission.
And his advice now for anyone who wants to build a global company is a perfect reflection of Alibaba's own story. He says, don't start by thinking global. Start by winning your local market first. Because those small local battles, that's what trains your team. That's what builds the foundation for everything that's going to come next.
You know, from the very beginning, with 10 toothbrushes in a sink, to fighting eBay from a secret apartment, all the way to refocusing a global giant, the strategy has always come back to that one simple, powerful idea. Find the right people. Which really just leaves one question for you to think about. Who are the people you need to find?